You know, I just got out the theater for seeing the movie for a second time, and I'm starting to feel like Gray Fox from Metal Gear Solid.
Hurt me more!
What's up, guys? This is Courtney, one half of the Brothers Deconstruction here, and I'm bringing you my review for Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame just came out this weekend, already made over $1 billion its opening weekend worldwide. I think it made like 300 to 400, or it's on pace to make 300 to 400. It's opening 300 to 400 million its opening weekend. This movie is going to do numbers. I wouldn't be surprised if this passed Avatar and joined the 2 billion club. I just wouldn't be surprised. And it deserves it. Also, as usual, spoilers are ahead because I'm not really going to jump into the plot of the movie, but I am going to jump into certain plot points. And that leads to spoilers. I just refuse to stay vague. If you're here, then you should know this already.
If you know, you know.
So, where to start? First, I'm going to start off with the things I didn't really like about the film. This film is great. It's not flawless, though, and it's not perfect. There are some gripes that I have with it, so I want to get those out of the way first before I start gushing about the rest of the movie. And we also have a podcast coming, hopefully tonight. We're going to get it recorded, and I'm going to get it up for Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe even Thursday, depending on when I get the chance to actually edit it and post it. But that's coming along too with me, Bruce, and John, so look out for that as well. But to start everything out, a couple of the things that I didn't like. Thor. Fat Thor was too much of a joke at certain points. And I think that it could have been reined back just a little bit, just because after the snap, the Avengers go find Thanos and they kill him, right? After that, 5 years goes by, which, again, that was my plan. I was right on that.
Record, this is my plan.
Calling the 5-year time gap. When we see Thor again, he's hilariously overweight and he's in a bad spot. Now, Chris Hemsworth is great. That's one of the things that I did like about the film. Chris Hemsworth, even though one of the things that I don't like is Thor's portrayal in the film, one of the things that I did like is Chris Hemsworth's acting with how they were portraying Thor. Chris Hemsworth is hilarious. We know that already. But he's been doing a really good job of portraying that tragedy that Thor's been living with since, his first movie, really. But he's really grown into his own, especially from Ragnarok and now Infinity War and Endgame. He's done a really good job of portraying that tragedy that Thor has been going through. So I like that. But I think because he was fat, and he was in a fat suit, or they did it with CGI or whatever, every time he popped up or they had like his stomach poking out or something like that, it just seemed to garner a laugh from the rest of the audience, and I don't think that it should have. However, if you really, really look at it and you take yourself out of the experience with the audience, it's sad. It's incredibly sad that he's been reduced to this hermit that stays in his apartment or his house, or whatever it is that he lives in. We'll just say the house. That he stays in the house. He only comes out to get beer, per Valkyrie. That's what she tells Bruce and Rocket when they arrive there. He's a hermit that only stays in, drinks beer, does nothing. He's wallowing in self-pity because he failed. He was the one that had the chance to deliver the killing blow to Thanos, and he didn't do it. He failed. He did it way too late when they killed Thanos, because he was the one that did it. But he's been wallowing in self-pity, and it's just heartbreaking and sad to watch that this is what Thor has become. Even when they're going over the time heist plan, and they're trying to kind of explain, hey, everybody's has experience with the Infinity Stones. Thor, tell us about the ether. He kind of fumbles over it. Everybody's looking around kind of awkwardly because of the way that he's talking about it, and he's getting emotional. And it was funny, but I don't think it should have been. There came a time when, he glossed over the fact that his mom died, and then everybody was looking around like, oh, okay, this is not, yeah, go ahead, stop that. It was heartbreaking and sad, but I think they played it up for laughs a little bit too much. The same thing goes with the Hulk. The Professor Hulk rumors are true. Hulk and Banner are merged. They're one person now. I don't want to say that the Hulk was too portrayed as being too funny. I just think I'm not used to the personality that the Hulk has now. He has Bruce's conscience, his intellect, his intelligence, and his personality. It's just that it's the Hulk body with Bruce's brain and mostly more of his face. Because this Hulk looks basically exactly like Mark Ruffalo now. It's actually kind of uncanny. But yeah, I think it's just I'm not used to the Hulk having that personality. So I'm not used to it. So I don't want to really lump Hulk into that, but that's kind of how I feel about it. The other thing that I have problems with, even though it is explained, I'm just not smart enough to understand quantum physics, is the time travel mechanics of the film. They kind of don't work. And I don't think any time travel mechanics in any film works because they always end up breaking their own rules some type of way. But they even use examples, Terminator, Quantum Leap, Back to the Future, Hot Tub Time Machine. They bring up these examples when they're saying that if you go back and you change something in the past, it's going to change the future. But Nebula and Bruce both say, no, that's not how it works. You can't change the future if you do something different. There is no change in the future if you change the past. Because when you go back, the way that he was explaining it was, I think, when you go back to the past, that becomes your current future. So there isn't anything to change if you start doing stuff differently. Again, I'm not smart enough to understand quantum physics, and time travel always makes my head hurt. So I'm just going on the basis that with the way that the movie ends and shit that happens, we're in a different timeline. That's what I'm going with. So yeah, but other than that, there wasn't really a whole lot that I didn't like about the film. Those are really the only things that I have problems with. Other than that, the film is great. It doesn't seem like a 3-hour film. It has a lot of character moments. I guess another thing that I had gripe with, I kind of wish that there was a little bit more action in between, but the third act battle at the Avengers compound makes up for it, to be honest. And I think that they did a really good job of sending off these characters and giving them moments to close their arcs. We get moments with Tony and Steve and Widow and Hawkeye and these characters, these main players, and they do a pretty good job of it. So a lot of the film is setting up that or doing that. The beginning of the film, the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the film is really the follow-up of Infinity War, the aftermath of it, and then we get the time jump, and then we're introduced, hey, Scott comes back, Captain Marvel brings back, well, no, that's not, I'm getting stuff mixed up now, but they do a really good job of just having the setup, and then after the time jump, what do we do now? How is the world living? How's the world reacting to all of this after 5 years? They just do, at that time, you have to have those character moments to kind of show where people are at. You just can't jump straight into action and everything like that. It's just going to be too jarring. But they do a pretty good job of setting up those moments and executing them well. And Nebula comes out on top as like a really, really good character. Of course, Tony and Steve, they have their moments and they're really, really important and really, really heartbreaking. And you know, overall, that we got some great those character moments led to really good fan service, and the final battle led to really, really good fan service. And none of the fan service was forced. It all seemed natural because you have to close these arcs for these characters. You have to end them. You just can't leave them open. You can't leave Tony's arc open. You can't leave Steve's arc open. You can't leave Black Widow's arc open. Thor and Hulk, they have potential for more stories, especially where they've taken these characters. So I want to see more stories with them. But as far as we're concerned, as far as I'm concerned, Tony and Steve definitely needed finality. They definitely needed something final and permanent. So I understand. Again, I've already given my spoiler warning, so it sucks for you if you didn't see that or you're still watching this video. But it made sense for Tony to die. I've been calling that since Infinity War. It made sense for Cap to retire, although I thought he would have died too. But it made sense for that to happen because for Iron Man to be the first movie to start everything, and everything that the way that Tony's character has progressed through all of the films that he's been in, it made sense for him to be the one to die at the end of the film. It just made sense with the way that he's overprotective. He's always gonna be Iron Man. You can't separate Tony and Iron Man. They are one and the same. He's always gonna be tinkering, and he's never gonna really be able to rest and, have a normal life because he's gonna be so overprotective of trying to protect everyone. So yeah, it makes sense that, at least for right now, the Thanos problem that the universe is having, it makes sense for Tony to be the one to put on the gauntlet, snap his fingers, snap Thanos and everybody on that side out of existence, and for him not to survive that snap. For him not to survive the aftermath of the snap. It makes sense for Steve to go back, for them to send Steve back, put the stones back, and then for him to be like, you know what? I think I'm gonna, have some of that life that Tony was telling me about. Again, this goes back to my gripe with the time travel thing. Steve goes back, puts the stones back, and doesn't come back on the launch, on the quantum time launch pad that they send him through. But Hulk says he missed his mark. So, as they're trying to get him back, Bucky notices a guy sitting on the bench. He calls Sam over. Sam goes up, starts talking to him. It's Steve. It's old man Rogers. Now, my problem with that is, what does that mean for everything that's happened? Now, the way that the Ancient One explained it is that, she was explaining it to Bruce when he went to go get the Time Stone. There's a straight line. If you take, and the Infinity Stones basically hold flow of time together. So if you take one out, it creates a branch in that time stream. But the way that Bruce was kind of interjecting and throwing ideas back, well, to erase that branch from taking an Infinity Stone out, what happens if we put it back? It erases that branch. So as long as we bring them back, everything should be okay. But what does that mean if you can't? How can you not change the future if you go back and do something differently in the past? We get a point in the movie where they try to go get the Tesseract and the plan goes sideways and Loki ends up with it and vanishes. So then Tony and Steve go back to a further time when Howard Stark had it at Shield, and they take it. So, what does that mean? Yeah, I think that they're creating, they've still created branching realities, because you just can't have Loki. Loki is dead. The Loki that we know in this timeline is dead. 2012 Loki, however, is still alive, and he never got arrested and taken to Asgard because he escaped with the Tesseract. So what does that mean? Does he take the Tesseract and then go to Thanos, and then there's a different timeline where Thanos still wins? Or, there's a different timeline where Thanos gets the Space Stone and the Mind Stone. Well, he doesn't get the Mind Stone, he gets the Space Stone, but still, you get the point that I'm trying to make, hopefully. So since I'm not smart enough to understand quantum physics, I'm just gonna go on the belief that there are alternate timelines that were created. Loki is still alive, and that's probably to open the door that they're going to use for the Loki TV show for Disney+. Bringing back some of these characters, I think there are parallel Earths, parallel realities where things are happening differently, even though they put the stones back. How can they not? You can't have, at some point, Loki disappearing in 2012 with the Tesseract and not have anything happen, not have anything change. So I'm just gonna go on the fact that yes, stuff is still changing. I don't really give a damn about the rules that they set, because it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, you take the stones, you put them back, but what? Like, Steve lived and married Peggy, and live with Peggy. So there has to be a reality where Steve came back. He wasn't thought to be dead. What happens then? You get what I'm saying? So it's confusing, and that's really been the only videos that I've been looking up, trying to see how people can explain it. And that parallel reality explanation works best for me, because that's what I was thinking when I came out of the movie the first time. You know, skirting past all of the confusing time travel mechanic stuff. The film, again, going back to what I like about the film, I like that third act battle with everybody at Avengers Compound. Cap wielding Mjolnir was one of the greatest things ever put to screen, because he had the shield and Mjolnir and he was yo-yoing it off Thanos' fucking forehead. That's one of the greatest things ever. You know, Tony and Pepper in her rescue armor fighting together. You know, everybody coming back. The Ravagers, the Asgardians, Wakanda. We get all of these people, these giant armies fighting Thanos, the Black Order, the Chitauri, the Sakarans, and the Outriders. That battle is worth the price of admission alone, to me at least. And and again, the character stuff in between, I loved. The little small moments. It's funny. This film is funny, but it's also heartbreaking. I don't want to set the record or set the precedent as this is too funny and it ruins all of its heartbreaking moments. There are times where, again, I think with some of the stuff with Thor, some of the stuff with Rocket maybe, there are certain comments that are made where it kind of kills the mood just a little bit, but other times it was some levity that was much needed. I don't think this movie needed to be depressing the entire way through, because that would have been a very, very long 3 hours. It would have been. And so I liked those interactions. And I like again, it doesn't seem like a 3-hour movie. I like the stuff with Natasha and Barton. And it makes sense for Black Widow to die, for her to sacrifice herself for the Soul Stone. And even then, there are more questions I have about Steve returning the Soul Stone, even with that. I'm not going to go back into that, though. But it makes sense, because she's been looking for redemption for so long. And she wasn't going to let her brother, Hawkeye, sacrifice himself, because he has a family. He has a wife and kids. Yeah, she has the Avengers, and that's her family, but you know, she was in a bad spot when he was supposed to kill her and he didn't. He was in a bad spot after his family got dusted in the very beginning of the movie, and he goes off as a vigilante, killing gang members and Yakuza and cartels and shit like that. And she comes and stops him and gets him out of that bad spot. And so this is her redemption arc, or the end of her redemption arc. And I'm really, really interested to see where they're going to start going with their films now. We're obviously getting, now Spider-Man Far From Home is going to end phase 3. So Spider-Man Far From Home is actually the ending of phase 3, but Endgame is the ending of kind of everything as we know it. So after Far From Home, I'm interested to see what they're going to do then, but we know we're getting the Eternals, Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2, and a Black Widow movie, which is probably going to be a prequel. But after that, and I saw an article headline that was saying that the Russos are done with Marvel Studios after Endgame. So what does this mean going forward when it comes to, you know, how they're going to do their movies? We know Guardians Volume 3 is going to happen after James Gunn gets done with Suicide Squad 2. Thor is with the Guardians now. So, and obviously he knew how Endgame was going to end when he was writing the script for Guardians 2. So I hope he does Thor justice in that film. And I'm sure he's going to be really excited to play around with Thor in his movies. Thor even called them the Asgardians of the Galaxy. And Gamora isn't with them because it was 2014 Gamora from the first Guardians before she met the rest of the team. She's not with them, but Quill is still searching for her. So is the film going to be them searching for her and running into somebody else? James Gunn already went on Twitter like years ago after Volume 2 saying that Adam Warlock was never confirmed to be the villain of Volume 3. So Adam Warlock may or may not be the villain of Volume 3. Who knows what he's going to do with the film. I just hope he does justice with Thor. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. So this is a great launching pad for a new MCU universe that they can kind of create, because they don't really have to go in one straight direction. They can kind of get crazy with their movies and do some off-the-wall type shit. And to be honest, I wouldn't be upset at all if they never released another MCU film. I will be completely happy because Endgame is the perfect ending in hell. They don't even have to release Far From Home. Endgame is the perfect ending to this entire 10, 11-year franchise. It's such a satisfactory ending because these very important characters that we love get closings to their arcs. Tony and Steve, Thor and Hulk get, brand new chances to do something new. Hawkeye's probably going to go back to retirement with his family, so he gets his arc closed. Ant-Man or Paul Scott and Hope, they're together. Cassie is like fucking 15 now, which is weird with the time jump. It's 5 years, but at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, she had to have been 7. She definitely the actress that they got to play Cassie definitely looks older than fucking 12. So maybe Cassie was like 9 or 10 in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't know. I'm terrible with guessing kids' ages. But yeah, we have a brand new launching pad for the MCU, and I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with it. But yeah, overall, this movie deserves to be seen. Go see it multiple times, solely to see if you understand the time travel theory that they use for the film. I'm going to go see it a shit more ton of times. Like I said, I feel like Gray Fox. And yeah, stay tuned for the podcast, guys. That's my thoughts on Avengers Endgame. I say it's definitely a go see, and I can't wait for this to come out on Blu-ray so I can, watch Infinity War and Endgame back to back and just gush over everything. I know I didn't do a super late review last week, but I literally hammered out a shit ton of those when I had that string of them coming out. So I'm gonna try to get another one of those, a few more of those recorded, so I can just have them scheduled and come out and everything like that. I'll be catching up with you guys. This is gonna be a wild ride, and these are crazy times that we live in.